All right, cheers and salutations. We have ourselves an awesome show today, and joining me, especially from his world travels, covering breaking stories, election integrity, as well as everything else that's happening in the world. Give it up for one of the dauntless few, Craig Jardula Pasta, who I guess disappeared. All right, shout out to Pasta. Well, I'll wait for him to come back. Awkward moment. All right, awkward moment right there. But yes, everyone, welcome to Hard Lens Media. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that ring bell notification. That way, all of you are made aware when we upload new content upon our channel. But nonetheless, as we continue to push forward, waiting for our guests to, I guess, come on board. I guess I will just filibuster for a little bit. So, folks, hit that like button. Be sure to follow Craig Jardula's YouTube channel, Pasta to Go, as well as I think you should be joining in very shortly, as well as numerous other social media platforms in which to find him. But now, all right, joining us now. Yes,
Wow.
Pasta. Yay, Pasta. How you doing, my friend?
Now the camera stuff is all over the place. My
Wait,
camera just
you
started
know what?
acting-
It's crazy. It looks like it has a target on your face, and it's like, what'd you do to piss off the NSA and the CIA?
I didn't do much. They didn't let me into Venezuela, for crying out loud. I was in neighboring Nicaragua waiting to get in, which
Okay.
is a whole different story in itself, Kit. But thank you so much, because this is going to be the first show back, a couple days after the election, in which we can really talk about it and break it down. Because unfortunately, we're going to get into this. I'm going to be talking about this on several shows today. I'm going to be going on the backstory. I'm going to be going on the critical hour.
All right. No, that's perfectly fine. Don't worry, Pasta. Speaking of backstory, I actually do have a video from them. So let's go ahead and first play this video up. And again, it's really good having you on here. Look, we all have technical issues. I think it curses upon you, NSA and CIA. So there you go. But let's go ahead and first play this video, and we'll have your video get squared away. But first, let's go ahead and pull this video up. It is from, again, Breakthrough News. So let's go ahead and play this.
We're at Nuestra Senora de Guadalupe School, a polling station in Caracas where people have been voting since early this morning in the presidential elections. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was one of the first to vote at 6 a.m. Around 800 election observers from around the world have been dispatched across the country to monitor the process. The U.S. and its allies have been trying to delegitimize for weeks with accusations of fraud.
Acá ha sido de verdad increíble la gente, el calor de todos y el buen comportamiento sobre todo. Ha sido maravilloso acá, en donde a mí me tocó. Y por lo menos yo no tuve problemas, la máquina funcionaba perfectamente. Y yo creo que no dure ni un minuto. Maravilloso.
Bueno, tranquilo y ordenado. Yo no tuve problema. No pasé ni 10 minutos. Muy rápido. Yo diría que demasiado rápido.
Anteriormente estaba en Perú. Me devolví porque amo mi país. Estamos así como que un poquito nerviosos, pero que se haga la voluntad de Dios.
The Venezuelan government has pushed back, arguing that their elections are fair, transparent, and open to outside observers unlike any other elections in the world. They say this is an attack by their enemies in collaboration with local right-wing opposition that wants to impose fascism on the country. They point to the fact that opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has received U.S. backing and participated in many failed coup attempts against Venezuela since Chavez was elected 25 years ago. She has refused to accept the outcome if Maduro wins. The results come out a few hours after polls close tonight, so we'll know soon what the future holds for Venezuela.
All right. So with that video playing, Pasta, in regards to what's happening in Venezuela, because it took you, obviously you were stopped, halted from entering into the country. What's been happening on the ground? Because there's a lot of reports coming out on social media, especially about riots, and there's talk of instability. And even though it is showing right now that Maduro won, there seems to be some sort of contention or against the results of this election. So I want to give the floor to you, my friend.
Well, the problem is that they send people like that over there who are just going to ask the baseline questions, kind of throw out the talking points that it's, they want to stop socialism, right? This is all about Socialism. They got to stop the socialists, and it's a right-wing fascist government, and yada yada yada. Blah 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 blah. Now, before we get to the stuff that's going on the ground and talk about why that stuff is going on the ground, let me just say this much: I'm not an expert in Venezuelan politics, right? Like I know a decent enough to know to say, okay, I know who Hugo Chavez is. I know what he did. I know how he nationalized the oil. I know how he wanted to take the natural resources from his country and use it for his own people. There are markets that exist in Venezuela, like there are markets that exist in Nicaragua. So, I mean, I know all the basic stuff, and obviously we understand that it's a clash between two different people there. A lot of people who are supportive of the Chavistas, mainly because the Chavistas, who Nicolas Maduro, who is the successor to Hugo Chavez, represents that. They have put themselves on the side of the people, the poor, right? And that's why a lot of these socialist type of governments, and there really are just mixed economies. There are markets that exist. And in fact, when the governments do projects like they're doing in Nicaragua, where infrastructure is happening all over the country, they open up the people to get more money from the free markets, the markets that come in. Now goods and services are being moved all around. That uplifts them. You don't see a lot of homeless people in Nicaragua. I didn't see hardly any at all, right? And this really actually helps people. So they understand they're part of a global economy. They just want to keep some of the resources for themselves. Unfortunately, the United States government, and it is a fascist-style government, but not fascist in the type of way which she was saying, where it's they're racist against the indigenous and they're awful and they're mean and they just want their people to make money. They're the white guy, the colonizer and stuff. And there is an element to that. There is. But by fascism, I mean corporations coming in and stealing their resources, mass resource extraction. And that's where the battle takes place between these groups, okay? So now when me and Fiorella go to see an election and observe an election, we're not going, Kit, to fight for communism or socialism or even capitalism. We're going to see if there is national sovereignty. We're fighting for the people to have a right to choose the government they want. And that's what we want, not the United States. So when me and Fiorella go to these countries, we're fighting for national sovereignty. There's no ideology, no ism behind it. It's just the right for the people to choose their own government. And that's why we don't just test the validity of these elections, we scrutinize them. Now, I wasn't on the ground in Venezuela because there were groups like that, out there that hated on us, gave us a bad name, and they halted us, right? I think a lot of people heard the news. A couple people got to squeak on in, but there was a lot of us, and I was just very surprised. I was like, why wouldn't they let me to go? And in fact, Kit, I wanted to bring some conservatives there. I wanted to bring some populist right people. I had several people in mind I talked to beforehand. They're like, hell yeah, I'll go. Let's go. And I wanted to show them people who had Donald Trump's ears, people who had the populist rights ears, because I don't believe in this whole new style. I was on one of those Twitter space yesterday, and I don't believe in this destiny style yelling and screaming, smearing, demeaning the other person. In fact, Kit, I took the word gusano, which means worm, out of my vocabulary because I wanted to actually build bridges and to have real conversations what's going on. I wanted people to relate. I didn't want people screaming at each other, but that's all we got nowadays. We got people who went down there, got the talking points and are throwing it out and really can't explain the legitimacy of what's going on in Venezuela the way we can. Okay. So when I talk about going to see the national sovereignty, I can concentrate and I can tell you to the T what is going on. I can't say to the T because I didn't go and I didn't get my questions, but I can say very, firmly that the Venezuelan election itself was a pretty solid election. I was on the phone with my friend yesterday, who's a Dominion voting salesman. He sells the voting machines for Dominion.
That goes swimmingly well because nothing's wrong with Dominion voting machines.
we'll get to that because they're using a company called Smartmatic, right?
I already don't like the name. I already don't like the name Smartmatic.
They've been known. Here's the thing, Kip. People have to start thinking about voting machines like they think of guns. It's not so much the gun that's dangerous. It's the person who's using it. Everybody wants to think that Dominion is the bad guy in the situation. No, it's the legislation who uses the machine and how they use the machine. And there's different types of machines that are used. People don't understand there's actual voting machines like the ones they have in Venezuela. They're called DRE machines, direct recording electronic voting machines. In other words, it acts as a cash register. It has to be zeroed out. They have to show everybody that it's been zeroed out. There's only one position they're voting for. I mean, if you just think about that by itself, the fact that they're voting for one position, and we sometimes have 15 different positions we have to vote for, maybe 20 positions, 10 judges, whatever, all these things, they make it complicated in the U.S. on purpose. They make it simplistic on purpose in Venezuela. You vote for one person, the Venezuelan president, right? You then vote for it. It then spits out a piece of paper. It creates a paper trail. That piece of paper is walked on over and put into a ballot box. It all stays in the purview of the people. So even though that machine is the official vote, which is called a direct recorded electronic machine, it is now matched up, and they do a 55% audit. I don't even want to talk about audits in the United States. They don't even do real audits. The people say, oh, I heard they audited the machine. No, the audits in the machine in the United States usually consist of, does the machine work beforehand? Does it work afterhand? They're not even auditing the actual votes themselves, and they literally get away with this. The Venezuelan audit is amazing, 55%. And here's the kicker. If you're going to sit here and you're going to ask me, do I think this election was fair or not? Because people will just throw out baseless claims, and that's what a lot of oppositional people are doing. On that Twitter talk yesterday, they were just throwing out broad, baseless claims. No, with a system like this, Kit, if I was with the opposition and I was tasked to catch the cheating, I would be able to catch the cheating in real time. Because what they do is that at the end of the day, they print out the machine, the results. They'll then do a random audit. And this is what I wanted to see. This is what I wanted to question. Because if you're going to ask, can you cheat this election? Yeah, you might be able to cheat it. Because 45% of the machines, they don't audit. But 55% is a huge number. Even my friend from Dominion goes, that's a huge number to audit, man, especially when you're counting the actual votes. So it is possible, but I would be able to catch it in real time because they post the results from each precinct on the door. And as the opposition candidate, I would know where my bread is buttered, right? I would know where I'm going to get the majority of my votes, which neighborhoods would really support me, which neighborhoods wouldn't support me. So I would be able to see the results from every single machine and go, wait, something's wrong over here. This is a district that we should be favored in, and we're losing by 20%. I want to flag that machine right there, this room, this number. We didn't see any of that. We didn't see any of that in Brazil, right? So what they're doing is they're throwing out baseless claims, and they're doing it at the behest of the United States government. You know what I'm saying? Because they can just they don't want any civil rest over there. They want civil unrest. So they can throw out these baseless claims, not have to show their work. Whereas if the Venezuelan government has a system where they're showing their homework and you get results that night, I would say confidently that this was a fair election. The Chavistas have fairly won. And if there is proof of fraud, they should be able to prove it. They can't prove it. They can't point to it. If I was tasked with that, with that job, I'd find the cheating in real time. And I've been saying this. I've been saying this about Brazil. I've been saying it about Venezuela. Brazil uses the direct recording electronic devices too as well. But they don't have a paper receipt. Venezuela actually has a paper receipt in which the guy walks over and puts it in the ballot box, or the girl walks over and puts it in the ballot box. It is a sound system, and I can say confidently today, and I know Fiorello will confidently say that was a fair election in Venezuela. And what we're seeing right now is the United States doing what they always do, trying to cause havoc because they want the resources for themselves, Kit. So we definitely will see opposition groups. They have a lot of money to fund this stuff. They use, NGOs like the NED or USAID that act like they're for democracy and human rights, but they're actually there as a front for the CIA to try to overturn the government. And that's what we're seeing on the ground right now. A friend of mine got out of the airport. She was telling all the other people, get there promptly to the airport. I got it right out in time because there's chaos going on in the airport. And that's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to kind of put this front that Nicolas Maduro and the Chavistas stole the elections. They don't have the proof of that. I have not seen it at all.
Right, and speaking of people making these accusations, we have, of course, corporate media, MSNBC and CNN. I actually got a video here, and I only shared one from BSDNC. I mean MSNBC, because it's standard propaganda. I'll let it play. It's 4 minutes long, but I'll only play like maybe 1 or 2 minutes of it. But let's just check this out. Shout out to Case Study QB, and thank you for that breakdown, because I do also want to talk about what happened to you in Nicaragua and why you were halted. Because again, it is rather surprising that so many people were held back, especially you yourself.
Early this morning, Venezuela's strongman Nicolas Maduro declared victory in a contested election, and the opposition calling those results into question, with claims that the Maduro regime likely falsified the vote count. They're also claiming victory, insisting that opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez won twice as many votes as Maduro. Secretary of State Antony Blinken today in Asia saying the U.S. has serious concerns that the announced results do not reflect the will of Venezuelan voters. Joining us now is Anne Applebaum, staff writer for The Atlantic and author of the important new book, Autocracy, Inc., The Dictators Who Want to Run the World. So let's talk about Venezuela as the most recent example, perhaps, of what we're seeing in Venezuela today. Does this reflect what you describe in the book as Autocracy, Inc.?
Autocracy, Inc. All right. So hold on. Only a minute in. Pasta, I see you raging. How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, there's two parts to rage about. Oh, more than likely falsified the vote, that they got double the votes. Where? Show us. How? Dude, they audit 55% of these machines. There is a physical paper trail. I mean, I don't think people understand how strong this election is, right? And like I said, Kit, that we catch this in real time. In Colombia, we were talking with the Pedro Gustavo party at the event. We were speaking to the magistrates, learning the system, and we were talking about it. And so they come over to me, and one of the girls says, "Well, expert, what would you do?" Right? And now this is the grassroots Pedro Gustavo's party. They're not in power, trying to get back in power. And I said, "Well, listen, at each mesa, they have to, produce the results. The final results, the official results, is the tally in the machine in the central tabulation." I said, "But you'll have all the information beforehand, right? So if they try to change these numbers, you just take pictures of every single table. You have representatives at every single table. Take pictures with your phone because you're allowed to witness this stuff. It's public, Kit. You'll know exactly when and where they cheated you." So they're like, "That's a great idea." So the second round of the elections, they had somebody taking a picture at every single mesa table and whatnot. So they knew they had a blueprint and they couldn't get cheated. If this was true for the opposition in Venezuela, then where's the proof? Meaning, what area? Tell me what city, what precinct, where did you get cheated? Because you know where your votes are coming from. You know how your bread is buttered. Of course, there's people who are going to vote that you don't know vote, but you'll get a general idea about where you're losing your vote. They didn't produce any of this evidence. And for any United States representative, this autocrat lady, whatever, I would like to take the book and throw it at her head. They've never spent any time down in these countries. I can speak highly of Nicaragua when I was running around the country, and people will say that the Sandinistas are not liked. No, Kit, they are loved by their government. I've never been around where you see so many FSLN flags, which is the Sandinistas party, everywhere. And I'm talking, I went all around the country. I spent the majority of my time south in San Juan del Sur. A lot of gringos hang out there too, so it's kind of cool. But I mean, there were flags over there. There was a parade over there. Of course, there's people who don't like the government. Of course, there's people who want to be oppositional to it. But at the end of the day, what the national sovereignty depends on what the majority of the people want to do. And we see that in Nicaragua. I can talk, confidently in Nicaragua. This government is definitely the government that the people want. It's definitely the government that deserves to be in power. They have clean, transparent elections. And instead of talking about these elections, like Dana Bash and all these other people, or whatever that little, I forgot her name, is the Munchkin lady who was married to, who was she married to? She wasn't married to Larry King, was she? No, I can't remember who she was. No, she was married to Alan Greenspan. Andrea Mitchell. Andrea Mitchell, right?
No, not that. Ugh.
Yeah, Andrea Mitchell's married to Alan Greenspan. They're not reporters; they're propagandists, and it really is disturbing that they didn't let somebody in like me, right? Because I started asking my friends, "Hey, did anybody's got a picture of the audit? Does anybody got a picture of the audit?" Like, nobody goes out and gets pictures of the audits. It's like it's an audit open to the public. Instead, they play this, what Rodney Kalick was playing there again. It's the socialist versus the capitalist argument, the fascist, and blah, 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 blah. No, just go get the proof, show that it's a legit vote, show that it's a legit election, and that's what we should stand by. We don't have to stand behind socialism, communism, or capitalism. We stand behind their national sovereignty, and we do that by proving if their elections is fair or if it's false. this election was a fair election. It is one of the most sound elections out there. So I know we're going to hear this stupid lady start talking about these dictators, and people, for them saying dictators, I mean, are you crazy? The dictators live right here in this country because our elections are the worst.
Mm-hmm. By the way, election integrity here in the city of Chicago. I mean, come on. I think we have the world heavyweight champion. Kid. Yeah. Hey, we're number one. We're number one in corruption. So step aside. Okay. Chicago's number one in corruption.
Hawaii wants to give you a run for your money.
You know what? Bring it on, great state of Hawaii. Bring it on, because Chicago can handle it all by itself. But besides all the corruption, because I do want to pull up just one other situation that did come up here, and this is another video, again from CNN's perspective of what's happening in Venezuela. Because I do want to give you a few minutes to talk about what's happening in Nicaragua too, and also the work that you're doing.
Today, people are taking to the streets of Venezuela to protest the announced results of Sunday's presidential election. Strongman Nicolas Maduro claimed victory in what the United States and other democracies see as a very sketchy, questionable election. Still, Venezuelan voters turned out in droves, many warning they would leave the country if Maduro won. That would add to roughly 8 million Venezuelans who've already fled Venezuela under is two-term rule, setting fears of worsening violent repression and economic collapse under another Maduro administration. Let's get right to CNN Español's Alejandra Oro in Venezuela's capital. And Alejandra, the protests are heating up. What's happening right now where you are?
Hi, Jake. I am in Caracas, Venezuela, and actually things are getting very tense at the moment. I don't know if you're able to hear the sound around me, but at this time, we see a lot of people on the streets requesting transparency on the results. And what's interesting that's happening here, we saw, for example, on different points of Venezuela, statues being pushed over. A perfect example was a statue of Hugo Chavez that was pushed over in another city of Venezuela. And the people that got out of the streets, they say two things. Number one, that they want an audit of the election results because they don't believe on the results that the CNE, the institution in charge of counting the ballots, gave at midnight today. They gave a victory to Nicolás Maduro of 54.2%, but they also request something that's very important. They want transparency, they want their votes to be counted, they want an audit, but they also say no candidate has asked us to go to the streets, meaning Nicolás Maduro, Edmundo González Urrutia. We are not able to see how many people are on the streets today, but what's interesting...
It's interesting how they could say that they're not able to see so many people on the streets. And we all know how corporate media likes to manufacture things. Those groups of people, were they a massive groups of people? Where they get these screenshots of all these people forming up? I mean, it's not like we haven't seen, false operations happening or that manufactured operations happening. So, Pasta, my main man. Let's break down what again, this is another example of CNN saying strongman Maduro. Also, they're leading on fears of the fact that there could be another exodus of people. But yet, when I was covering the migrant shelter crisis here in Chicago, a lot of Venezuelans who were interviewed saying things are so bad here in America, I might as well go back to Venezuela. So I want to give the floor to you, Pasta.
Well, I'm trying to find the final results because I want to see what exactly they are. But I know he got close to 54%, 55% versus, I think, here it is. I think it is 54% versus 40-something%. I got to see, but that is a massive win. Okay. Right. And like I said, already 55% of the votes are already audited in public in front of people in the purview with a paper trail. I mean, it is a strong elections. So when they say they want transparency and all this other stuff, they're just throwing out these baseless claims because the United States, come hell or high water, wants Venezuela. And if they can get it with a fair election, they'll take it, right? If they get their puppet in, they'll take it. But if they can't get it with a puppet kit, what are they going to do? They're going to fund the protest. They're going to fund the civil unrest. This has all United States fingerprints right behind it. And, at least now, yesterday in that Twitter space, there's one person, I think her name is something Valentina, which, by the way, the opposition in Venezuela and Colombia, they're so beautiful. And when they get all mad and start screaming, it's amazing. But, the thing is, when they start throwing out these baseless claims, and they even open up and say, listen, we want the United States help. We need their help because we have a dictator in office. And they just say these things. And it's just not true. It's not a regime. It's not a dictation, right? A dictator. It's a democratically elected president. And if the United States can't get it by, way election, like I said, they'll get it through civil unrest. So a lot of these things you're seeing on the ground are going to be funded directly from the West. They did it in 2018 in Nicaragua. I was able to talk to a lot of people. They used their media sources and whatnot to make it seem like, in the case of 2018, it was pensions that were getting cut, right? Like supposedly people's retirement pensions or something. They were using an excuse that the government had to cut something from the people and took away something from the people financially. And that's what put them in a distressful moment. And that's why they had to overthrow the government. But it was just civil unrest funded by all these NGOs. And that's what you're going to see in Venezuela right now. And that's something you're going to see the receipts come out. Look how they all walk in lockstep as these things happen. All the mainstream media, they come out together. Strong man, dictator. He's taking away people's rights. He's killing people in the streets. People are eating out of garbage cans while he's eating a steak. These are the things you hear all the time. And the truth is that if the United States would take their foot off the neck and let these countries just trade freely and not sanction them to death, because the goal of sanctions is this: to turn the people against the government by making the conditions so dire that they'll do anything or believe anything. And that's what they've done in Venezuela for years, ever since Hugo Chavez got in and nationalized the oil. This is about what it's always been about, Kit, whether it would be Iraq or Venezuela. It's the Earl. They want the Earl.
So now, looking at what you're going through or what you went through in Nicaragua, what's happening on the ground there? Because already, as you explained earlier on, you were trying to get inside Venezuela, but you also went to Nicaragua as well to cover current events that are happening there. What exactly is happening on the ground? Because last time we spoke to you, you were indicating that you were heading over there, which you did, obviously. So can you at least elaborate to our viewing audience about what's happening in that sphere?
Well, Nicaragua, several years ago, 3 years ago, had an election, had one of the best elections I saw. It kicked off the Convo Couch's election tour, from Nicaragua to Honduras, Peru, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico. I've been to Cuba, haven't witnessed the election there, but I want to try to get in to see their election next year. I'm going to try my ass to get off there. But their election was one of the cleanest. And just like Nicolas Maduro, just like the Cuban government, the Sandinistas who are in power face the same obstacles from the United States and the West via sanctions as they do. Now, they're not as rough. They're not as hard. I can access all my bank cards in Nicaragua. They're not out of Stripe. I can pull out money out of an ATM over there whenever I want. You can't do that in Venezuela. You can't do that in Cuba. I know that for Cuba because I've been to Cuba two times, and you can't access your bank cards. In other words, whatever cash you bring to Cuba, that's all you got, right? You know what I'm saying? Once you run out, you run out. That's not the case. You can refire, reload in Nicaragua. So why do the Sandinistas, after winning a legit election, why do they have power? Well, you see what they do. They put themselves on the side of the people, of the working class. And like I said, that doesn't mean they don't have oppositional people. They don't have people who disagree with the government. That exists there. But the majority of the people love that government there. And what I witnessed was the infrastructure, right? I wanted to go to a different place outside Managua. So I went to San Juan del Sur. We stopped at Granada, which is a historic town. We saw what was going on over there. We stopped at Rivas, which is a growing working town. But what we're seeing all over there is infrastructure. They're using infrastructure projects to get things done, to boost the lifestyle of the people, to raise up their floor, right? To help them up. And right now they have an intercoastal highway they're working on. We went down to San Juan del Sur and we rented bicycles, little motorcycles, right? Now I'm still going over dirt roads in certain spots to get to the beach. I crashed. I hurt my knee a little bit, my arm and stuff like that. I was trying to, do my version of the motorcycle diaries. But what we see in Nicaragua, and Venezuela is trying to get to that same place, is also food sovereignty, right? In other words, the ability to feed themselves. And that's what we heard years ago during the elections. We said, the Renacer Act, which is all these sanctions coming in from the United States government that they're going to throw on Nicaragua. We heard a lot of Nicaraguans, including the president, saying, we don't care. We can feed ourselves. They've had agricultural projects going for a long time, food projects that have been going for a long time. When you go into the markets in Nicaragua, food is plentiful, right?
Mhm.
Food is all over the place. That doesn't mean there's not poor people here and there trying to sell things. Like I bought this little bracelet off a nice little girl on the beach who was walking around saying, "Would you buy my bracelets?" and whatnot. Poverty exists. There's different classes that exist. There's free markets that exist. That is true in Nicaragua. It's not like this uber overbearing, old school, what everybody complains about, this communist government where they control all the sectors and there's just one level of people. That doesn't happen in Nicaragua. We were in the hills near San Juan del Sur, and there's nice housing where people live. So, I mean, there are markets that exist, but how do you take care of the people who are the most vulnerable? That is what the Sandinistas have concentrated on in Nicaragua. And that's what we see. And they got this kind of multipolar love that they're going on with other countries in trading, and opening on up. I mean, what they're doing in Venezuela is so disgusting. They've been stealing oil, not just sanctions. They freaking copped a tanker of the West coming in from Iran years ago, and they grabbed it. England seized about $10 billion in gold from the Venezuelan, treasury. They just seized it. They just took it. So, I mean, all these things exist, but you can thrive if you take care of the people. And, they're just developing in Nicaragua. And I would encourage people, right? It's not expensive at all. It's very, very cheap. If you want to take a vacation, go down to San Juan del Sur, fly into Managua, take a little bus down to San Juan del Sur. It's like less than 2 hours. Post up over there. There's hostels all over the place. There's hotels over the place. Food is plentiful. Drinks are plentiful. Fun, dancing, it's all plentiful. Because, and these beaches, you can go to all these little different beaches, man. It's amazing. It was like the movie Y Tu Mamá También. You come off a dirt road and you just see this beautiful beach. There's a lot of surfers that go down to Nicaragua. But that's what they've been using to really help their people out. Food sovereignty and infrastructure. And you'd be amazed, Kit, when you see a third world nation or a underdeveloped nation, excuse me for those out there, I don't want to piss anybody off, an underdeveloped nation start catching up to speed and start developing. It is something special. And, the history of what was going on in 1979, that's why we were there to cover the revolution, when the Nicaraguan government, at the time, the Sandinista Front, threw out the Somoza government, this dictator, a real dictator, a puppet of the United States, and took control of power. Then a lot of the group of the Somozas went over to Honduras and regrouped and became part of the Contras, and then to come in. So for years, the Nicaraguan government has been fighting off the West, and they've been doing it to a T perfectly. In 2018, another uprising funded by who? The United States government. They were able to outlast it. It did sack the country a little bit. After the protests quelled down, and the Nicaraguan government was so smart. The Sandinista government was so smart. They didn't send their cops in the streets to start, firing back and murdering these people. They let it quell down. They didn't give the ammunition to the United States government and media, which they can say, strongman Nicolas Ortega is killing people in the streets. You know what I'm saying? They were smart about it, Kit. And once it dissolved, they were ready to pick back up. COVID came. That sacked all these countries a little bit too as well. But, they're just moving along and trucking along. It's going to be interesting to see who the Sandinistas choose to run moving forward, whether it be Daniel Ortega, if he can run another term, or is his son going to step up to bat, who's been doing a lot of diplomatic work. Remember this name, Laureano, Ortega. Will he step up? Very different than his father. A father's a military man, a soldier. This guy is a very educated man. He's smart. He's a diplomat. And it's going to be interesting to see who they choose moving forward, but no matter what. And you think about this all the time. I think about this all the time. With Venezuela, it's obvious to me why they want Venezuela. They want the oil. Well, Nicaragua doesn't have that natural resource. So what is it that they want so much? It's control. They want the Nicaraguan government to be under the boot of the United States so they can throw all these IMF loans at them, right? And that they own all the resources. They own the trade that's going on in Nicaragua. They reap the benefits, all their corporations. That's what we got going on. We got all these multinational corporations that are ruining our lifestyle here at home. They're ruining the people's lifestyle abroad. And that's what this is a struggle about right now. It's multipolar love. Can we get it ourselves? Can the people obtain the power? Can they have a lifestyle? Or are they going to just let the corporations go in there and steal everything? And then we're living under the boot of fascism. And I'm talking about real fascism, which is the merger of corporations and state.
Well, I think it's kind of already, if we haven't crossed that threshold already, we're getting close to it now, especially due to the fact that we have unchecked corruption here in the United States. And not only at the federal level, but the state level, city level. I mean, let's face it, every institution has corruption, but I think we are very close to perfecting something far, far more insidious here. And it's up to the people to really say no more to it. But in regards to the work that you're doing, what can we look forward to in regards towards what you'll be reporting? I know right now that you're going to, I know you're taking time out of your day because you got another show that you're going to be part of later on. So I do appreciate the time that you're giving us. And I don't want you to be late for the other programs that you'll be co-hosting on as well. But is there anything that we need to be made aware of, any kind of live streams or events in which people can follow you and your channel Pasta to Go? Because right now your channel's growing. You're doing a lot of great collaborations with a lot of other people. You're going to be here in Chicago for the DNC convention. But is there anything else that we can look forward to so that people can follow you, support your work? Because you're out there on the ground in Nicaragua, going to South America, going to Central America, going all over. You did a great documentary about Lahaina a year ago and earlier this year as well. What is it? What is further on down the road so that we can help you out, man?
Well, first off, let me just say that this isn't. I love the fact that you have me on. I'm kind of like lost for words. I want to use the right words. That this is not any type of you said, I want to make sure we don't hold you up too long and get over there. No, this is an honor and privilege to come on the show.
No, no,
you know what I'm saying? I'm going to, when you get to go to these countries and just take some time off, like I was able to just stop, right, and just breathe and just, okay, let me just get, a grip of what's going on in my reality, and a lot of crazy stuff that's going on in my world personally that I haven't been talking about. That's been a lot of weight on my shoulders.
Hey, wait! I don't gotta cut you off here. Hey, man, you know what? But you are doing the work, and you know something. I have to say I'm impressed with just everything what you've been doing. I don't want to go into too much personal stuff, but in regards to people, weaker men would have broken. You have done some outstanding stuff, so I appreciate the kind words you said to me. But hey, man, you are someone that I have to look up to too as well, and you have been doing the great work, which is why I call you one of the dauntless few.
Well, thank you. And, likewise. And I mean that too, because you're a mensch, you're a great guy. And, when I was able to sit down there and smoke a nice cigar, and by the way, that's the argument. What cigars are better? I like using the word cigar from the movie. What was that movie? Tombstone. How many times I tell you, kid, to stop smoking that cigar while I'm playing cards? Billy Bob Thornton. But, I was able to reflect, and I was able to say, man, look, this is a crazy world right now. And I don't try to hate on people, for the stuff they do. There are people out there, and I understand right now, and it's crazy. I just really try to, come at things in a very honorable way, a discussion way. Like I said, I use the term Gusano, which was used by Fidel Castro to describe the people who were joining the empire and pushing back against the nationalization of Cuba. Gusano means worm. Well, I took that word out of my vocabulary because I really just want to connect with people on a human level, on a kind level, on a loving level, even for the people who disagree with me. And I was able, as I'm smoking a cigar, looking at the ocean in the Pacific Ocean in San Juan del Sur, I was able to reflect and just be so appreciative to be on shows like this, Kit, to have you as a friend, to have your platform. Yeah, sure, this isn't a platform where we have 20,000 people watching and it's going to get millions of views, but
someday,
someday, who knows right now, because that's the thing we're dealing with through right now. We're both dealing with mass, censorship. I mean, the painting that the Zago brothers did, I can imagine. The CIA, the deep state would take that picture and go, okay, all these people over here need to be silenced. There's some people that are not going to put us in danger. There are some people who are always going to talk about stuff. There's some people who are always going to be divisive, right? And they like that. They want us fighting each other. So there's people who are out there who are going to be divisive. On that Twitter talk yesterday, there was some stuff going on, man. It just disgusted me. It wasn't a serious conversation. I had an hour debate with Destiny in Austin, Texas, right? About election integrity. And I encourage people, go look at the video. Not once did I have to smear him or demean him or call him stupid names. In fact, Alex Stein was waiting in the wings to just jump on stage and just go after him. And that's where we've come to. This is where we're at right now. This is what the ruling class wants. They want us screaming at each other, yelling at each other. They want that discourse in independent media. And that's who they're highlighting. People who have those tactics. That ain't me, kid. That's not who I am. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to be a gentleman. I'm going to try to prove my points. I was so happy for the little time that Fiorella was able to jump in there and speak about what was going on, because she didn't have to demean anybody or yell at anybody. And this is a Latin woman where there are other Latin women out there that hate her and despise her and are screaming about, you people don't give a stuff. You guys are the worst people in the world. You're human garbage. And I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa. We disarm that kind of conversation. We have to have real conversations. So when you're sitting here giving me all these accolades and lifting me up, I just got to say ditto, especially, kid, I have a special place in my heart for what you do, because you talk about election integrity. I remember the work you've done before. And when you started doing this, when I saw you and Daniel Lupker out there with a microphone, I was like, I can do this too. Wait a second, we can do this. If the mainstream media is not going to do this for the people, then we can do this. We can just grab a microphone, we can go to a convention, we can go to an event, and we can ask these people questions. So I'm very honored and thankful that you all have provided a platform for me to come on to talk to your people. And I know we have a lot of the same audiences. People know who we are. But, man, I'm going to just keep trucking. I'm looking forward to seeing Chicago. If anybody wants to know what I'm doing, I got Chicago coming forth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, unfortunately, this year, I was shut out of some serious elections, all right? I didn't get to Russia. I didn't get to Venezuela. Venezuela was a kick in the nuts. It really was.
Bro. Next time.
Well, it's not. The Venezuelan government needs to get their shit together, too, as well. They can't outsource their foreign policy decisions to these little stupid groups in the Americas who are just pro-socialism and everybody's a fascism. They're not going to go get the answers they needed to get. I didn't see any video of the audits itself. I was I was asking people I know, go see the audits. These are public audits. You go and witness this. Let's get the answers to push back about what's going on. I don't have to yell at somebody who's anti-government about the election. I can say, okay, show me where was the fraud taking place? Because if you just look at the system as a whole, and I mean, like I said, I've said this twice this show. I'm going to say it for a third time. Venezuelans' elections are clean. They're strong. You would be able to catch the fraud in real time. So if you think there was fraud, you tell me where. You show me, because if I was in your position, I would be able to give you that homework. So anyways, not being able to go was a little bit of a kick in the nuts. It really does this. It's the same thing we saw at Rage Against the War Machine. All those Answer Coalition people, right? We offered the stage for them. You want to come on? You want to talk? If a Jamu Baraka wanted to come talk at Rage Against the War Machine and we had no space, I would have stepped aside for him to come and talk, right? If anybody, like if some of those people who were high up in Answer from PSL, if he wanted to talk, I would have stepped aside to let him talk. But no, they're part of this. And this is what makes me think, really, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to be diving into it, too, as well. I'm going to be looking at all these groups, where their money comes from. We're going to see what their motives are, because it's on the left, too, kid. We have divisive rhetoric. It is fueled. It is COINTELPRO style fucking shit that's going on. And if you don't know what COINTELPRO is, it's an FBI, CIA program meant to infiltrate groups from the inside to keep people fighting. These PSL groups and these Answer Coalition groups, they're so concentrating on culture issues and trans rights and all this other stuff. I don't want to get involved with that stuff. I just want to go and get the details out there. And I would provide a space for them to talk. And yet they're not providing a space for some of us to talk. All the people who participated in Rage went on their shit list. Why? Because we did a protest with the Mises Caucus, with libertarians. Oh my God, how could you do that? They're racist. We were coming together to fight a war. They should look at what happened in Venezuela. Do you know that Nicolas Maduro got the endorsement from 13 different parties? 13 different parties. I don't even have to know what those 13 parties are about to understand that he was willing to compromise for the benefit of people. If you got an endorsement from 13 different parties, you're willing to compromise. You're not part of COINTELPRO, and instead of, if you're not part of the CIA or an FBI program, put your fucking ego aside and say, let's let other people talk, even if they speak different than us, for the benefit of the movement, for the benefit of transparency, for the benefit of national sovereignty. And that's what we got going on right now. A bunch of people who cared about their own stuff and their ego rather than what's right or what's wrong. I know I got off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No, don't apologize. Shoot, I'm glad, because here's the thing,
sucks,
man.
Kid. It
Well,
sucks, Kid, that they did this shit because we're collecting evidence, but to get shut out by another group out there to say, "Oh, you can't let them on there." What do you mean?
You know what it is? It's just that, because I've seen this before. Maybe it's just a smaller version of it, but me and Daniel, we 2017, covering all these protests. All these activists and groups would protest in front of Trump Tower. They'd start somewhere in downtown Chicago by City Hall or somewhere else, and then march to Trump Tower. And then as soon as Biden got in office, all those people disappeared. All those activists, all those organizers disappeared or started focusing on lesser stuff or things that are irrelevant. And I gotta say this, like, again, a lot of them were not a fan of me and Daniel, because we began questioning them. I'm like, okay, well, what happens after Biden wins? What happens if the sanctuary city can Chicago really be a sanctuary city? And there was a lot of points where both him and I were called racist or sexist because we were asking questions to a lot of these activist groups who, mind you, at the end of the day, a lot of them were just there just to protest Trump and feel good about themselves. And a lot of those protests now, I just look back at it as just like a waste of time. But that's just me, and that's just maybe just a smaller example of just what was going on.
Well,
but
Kit, I think we need to ask the question: which ones are paid ops? Which ones are useful idiots? There are a lot of useful idiots, and there's just people who are going along and they'll change. And there's a lot of paid ops. But if you're going to sit there and downplay the fact, and there's some people out there, friends of mine right now, that are downplaying the fact that this isn't a paid op, and it's like, well, it's just a useful idiot. No. These people in position of power who get the money, they also promote mentally ill and mentally weak people because they know it's going to cause divisiveness within their own group. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's social engineering. It goes back to the Tavistock days. And my friend Courtney Turner just wrote a book on Tavistock, Miriam Hanen. I know I'm throwing out names out there that you might not know, but I'm going to encourage some people who are watching this to do what I did. Listen to a lot of truthers. Look at their receipts. See what they have to say. Those were the old school conspiracy theorists. They're now called truthers because they're seeking the truth. Derek Bros, Last American Vagabond. Look at these guys work. They bring receipts and they talk about social engineers all the time. This is very true. It's happening among us right now. And if we're going to deny the fact that there's CIA, FBI influence there, I know you have to give the proof. We'll find the proof. We're going to go out there. But from what I'm suspecting right now, a lot of these leftist groups, especially the ones that went to Venezuela, which kept out a lot of us there, me and Fee included, and we will get all the receipts. It's coming, you know what I'm saying? Because this is a sin. We needed to be there. Nobody occupies the lane that we occupy. And for my friends out there and some of those people out there that went now, they're just throwing out the talking points that don't understand the system right now because they want to now occupy that space. Go at it, have fun and stuff like that. But I know the election system through and through. I know the machines, right? That machine. I know the Smartmatic machines. I know how it works. I know all different types of machines. I know how I know the system through and through. I study this stuff for a reason because I want to be able to prove or disprove an election because it's so important. But I mean, we're under attack now. And the next spot you'll see me is in Chicago hanging with you. I'm going to be on August 8th, the anniversary for the Lahaina. I will be on your show in the morning. I'll be doing a show with Matt Weinglass, who's done some work out there from the Homeless Left, who his YouTube has been taken down too as well. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the information attack and dude, the whole Twitter stuff, right? Like how many times the truthers, all my truther friends who've been talking about Elon out of the gate, people like Jason Burmis and Steve Poikonen who've been talking about this guy's a defense contractor. He's a Manchurian candidate. He ain't out for free speech. Look at him now. A cuck for Israel, a cuck for Trump. I mean, calling these elections unfair when he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Like baseless claims. He's there. He's showing his true ass colors. Well, you didn't have to wait to hear this information and see it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, if you were listening to these guys years ago. But you know what the problem is? These are the real censored guys. We're the real censored guys. We're gonna have a Combo Couch show today. Guess what? No monetization there. None. Can't make a dime. Can't make a penny out of the algorithm. Why? For how long now? That's you should be listening to the people who get censored for real. The real censorship, not the people who get their numbers boosted here and there.
Dude, keep on speaking that truth to power, and you are always invited. I'm looking forward to having you on for August 8th, especially because that is the unfortunate anniversary of the most devastating wildfire in U.S. Hawaiian history. And as far as I'm concerned, you are one of the very few people that actually went there to talk about the aftermath. And shout out to you and all your work. So Pasta, as always, man, you are always invited to be on this show. Keep on speaking truth to power. And to the rest of our viewing audience, because this will be seen on Can TV, check out Hard Lens Media on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, and Kick. Pasta, looking forward to seeing you in Chicago and educating your palate with Chicago-style food, which is the best kind of food there is.
Let's go get some good deep dish pizza, you know.
Absolutely.
Oh, dude, you want to talk about? Listen, last plug before I jump on out of here. I told people about San Juan del Sur. I'm serious about it. You can fly into Liberia, Costa Rica, and do a border crossing, or you can fly right into Managua and take a bus down. I would go into Managua and fly down. But if you have a few extra bucks and you don't want to break the bank, go to San Juan del Sur. The food is amazing. I have now, my blood type is ceviche. I mean, it's like, you know, I had sushi in San Juan del Sur. You can't even smell the fish. All the fish is pulled right out of the water. And here's the thing, Kit, no chemtrails. You don't see any chemtrails there. My skin was clearing up. I was drinking 80-cent beers. I was drinking micheladas. My friend Misha Michelada over at the Jimmy Dore Show, sending a shout out to her. Dude, I had micheladas in the morning, like a Bloody Mary mix with a Tonya beer. Tonya's the Nicaraguan beer, but you guys can do this. And the housing is cheap. The rooms are cheap. The hostels are cheap. The hotel rooms are cheap. Go to San Juan del Sur.
Keep rubbing it in, Pasta. Why, my goodness gracious, living it up.
We'll go, Kit, you know what? If you want to go, we'll go. We'll rent some motorcycles, $20 a day. You get the little automatic CC motorcycle, take it all around to the beaches. I had a tour guy, my man John Michael was there. And we just had a great time, man. It was going all over, eating the food, seeing the culture, seeing the infrastructure projects. They're coming back. I mean, there was a pizza place. You want to talk about this? It was called La Vecchia Pizza. They're from Italy. They were big Juventus fans. They had pictures of Juventus players. And remember the goaltender from Italy, Buffon, his jersey on the wall.
So, okay. So our people are representing. Us Italians are representing.
The pizza was amazing.
Of course.
I had a burger one day, amazing.
It has to be.
Ceviche all the time was amazing. I had fish carpaccio was amazing. I had lobster. It was amazing. The food was crazy. My friend Wyatt in Managua took me to an Italian restaurant, and I was going, all right, he wants Italian. I'm telling you, I was blown away. I couldn't believe how good it was. I took a bunch of pictures. I'll be posting them up. I mean, guys, if you have a few bucks, a ticket to Managua from Miami is like $300 round trip, under $300. It's cheap to get all around the country. The hotel room is cheap right now, and it's not overcrowded. It's going to be overcrowded one day because it's just an awesome place. And as a gringo, you can get around there. Nicaragua doesn't have a high crime rate, right? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people who speak English in San Juan del Sur. So go take advantage of it. The food is amazing. The beaches are great. You can go fishing. It's just an amazing experience. I really want to see. I'd like to go down and do an Anthony Bourdain style 12 episodes in just Nicaragua alone. I can do it in San Juan del Sur alone. I mean, take advantage of it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great place to go. The food is great. The people are great. Have a great time. Nicaragua, check it out. Thank you so much, Kit, for having me on, brother.
Absolutely, brother, man. All the best to you. Take care. We're going to continue on the rest of our main show, folks. But let's go ahead. Round of applause.
See you in Chicago.
Absolutely. I'll see you there too, buddy. Take care, brother.
What you're following, that's idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy, only rape. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. We say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flames. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away, when home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash. How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, 'cause a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do.